Hi, everybody. I'm Chris Preimesberger, editor of eWEEK. Thank you very much for joining us today for this latest segment of eWEEK eSpeaks. It's our series of video conversations with thought leaders from all over the IT business. Our guest today is Josh Snowhorn, and he is CEO and founder of Quantum Loophole, a very interestingly named company. Josh, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I almost said Josh Snowhorn. I don't know. I guess that's natural, I guess, for some people to say. Sorry about that.
It's okay. I've had many conferences where they open me and introduce me as Snowden, and I get to say that I'm not the spy. So
Snowden. That's right. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So, Josh, tell us a little bit about yourself and your background.
Well, I've been in the data center industry for a long time. Started around 2000. I was a consultant in retrofitting telecom hotels in the CLEC era. Spent 11 years of my career at Terramark. I was employee number 6 there, and I was the first telecom employee at the company. Built NAP of the Americas and ran interconnection there for many years. Spent a year under the umbrella of Verizon after they acquired us, and then joined Cincinnati Bell, where I spent a year working for CyrusOne under the Cincinnati Bell umbrella until our successful IPO, and I ran interconnection there. I founded Edge Micro with some other folks and did that for a little over a year. Took a year off traveling the world, which is the most boring thing ever because I like working, and founded Quantum Loophole with some great teammates.
Wow, I never thought of traveling the world as maybe boring, but if you got something that's more exciting than that, hey, everything's relative, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, yeah, great. Well, you have great background in this. I'm really interested in data centers, been writing about them for a long time, have visited a bunch of them, interconnection types and colo types and everything in between, if there's anything else in between. Tell me about Quantum Loophole, first of all. Where'd you get that name? And why did you decide to go into this business? Because what you're doing is you're going to be building and owning these. Is that correct?
Correct. I can explain the dynamics of what we're doing, and it kind of follows along with the name. Quantum Loophole it's a URL that I've held for years. One of those URLs you kind of sit on because you thought it sounded cool or something like that. And frankly, that was the reason. When Albert Einstein and Niels Bohr came up with the theory of quantum entanglement, scientists spent years and years and years trying to prove that quantum entanglement exists. And that followed on, this is all the way back from the 1930s. There was a Bell test created in the 1960s where they would shoot a laser at a piece of boron and measure photons coming out at either end using a light source. And they varied that experiment millions of times. And then they realized that because of human influence and the spooky mechanics behind quantum entanglement, that human beings were actually influencing the experiment. And that became the quantum loophole, that they actually couldn't prove that entanglement existed. And it was actually called a freedom of choice issue. And we like to think of Quantum Loophole as a freedom of choice company in the asset that we put in place. So a hyperscaler or enterprise or anybody who comes along, be it a public sector client or anything, can buy a piece of dirt from us at the scale we have and build their own data center, and we power it with our special power systems and provide fiber with a massive fiber strand count we're building. Or we can do a build to suit or any mixture and combination in between all of that. So it's really just giving people a freedom of choice at the scale of the campus we're building.
Oh, it sounds like a do-it-yourself thing. You can actually build to suit, like you said, on somebody else's land, or you can own the land and build and then lease it. Wow, you got some choices. Now, is Quantum Loophole going to be dealing mostly with the interconnection type data center or colo or both?
Honestly, everybody. Our first campus is 20 miles from Equinix Ashburn. I won't give you the exact locations, I'm not allowed to yet, but that'll come out quite soon. But it's from a latency perspective and a distance to build fiber, it's extremely close. Our campus has 1,000 megawatts of power available today and is zone general industrial, the majority of the property, which allows us to deliver massive amounts of energy and get back to the interconnection market with our 100,000 strand count fiber backbone that we're building. And just talking about fiber, I remember days when 192 fibers was big, and now it's or whatever count it might have. Anything over 100 fibers was huge, and we're doing 100,000 strands. on each path to connect back to the market. So it's really a change in the way the industry is building today.
Oh, yeah, it sounds like it. Now, tell me about the market, because you've got companies like Equinix and others that have a large string of data centers globally, and then you've got companies like Google and Facebook and Oracle and others that have their own, and IBM, they have their own data center sets. Who's really your competitor here?
Honestly, nobody has anything, excuse me, at our scale. We don't really have a competitor per se. It might be, in some senses, a hyperscaler going out and acquiring a large parcel and building it themselves and not taking advantage of our ecosystem. What we're trying to offer is a mass scale transmission substation and an incredible resiliency. And the key here is transmission instead of distribution power. And then the availability of large parcels of land to build out as they see fit, and the availability of fiber, and they can take advantage of the cost benefit of the large scale we're building. They might only take 5,000 strands or something like that, but they'll get the economies of scale. In addition, our land campus is so big that we can support doing large battery farms and not generators and things like that. So in trying to focus on all the sustainability goals of the hyperscale industry, we think we've achieved that, but they could choose to do it themselves. We think our economics will make them want to do it directly. The large tenant provider, data center providers, be it Digital Realty or Cyrus or QTS or Aligned or all the other folks that are friends of mine in the industry, can certainly come and acquire land from us and deploy on the property. We're not trying to compete with them or cause any issues in that industry. We just want to be able to offer a benefit in a master plan sort of data center city. And in addition, if Equinix and other folks want to come and put an extension of their internet exchange there or something like that, great. It just benefits the ecosystem, and we're able to provide those services for land, build-to-suit, energy, or fiber, all within that campus.
Wow, a lot of choices, a lot of services, a lot of options, it seems like, all the way around. Tell me about how you choose a location for a data center. I know there's a lot of factors involved with that. It used to be in years gone by that it seems to me that data centers were built with the local climate involved. In other words, in Iceland, with all the cool air that was able to be brought in. I remember visiting a data center, Facebook's data center up in Prineville, Oregon, and it was designed for the prevailing wind there in Northeast Oregon. And there was a prevailing wind that came into the building, and the air was brought through a sheen of water, a very thin sheen of water. Then the air was directed downstairs to where there were 15,000 servers, and then out the other end, and it was like an exhaust, the air coming in, going through the engine or whatever, and then out the exhaust. Is that still the case now, or have things changed?
It depends on the applications and the compute that you're trying to house. Certainly having something in the high desert in Oregon or Washington State can be very interesting, or even Arizona, because because of the bulb drop in temperature and dryness, and trying to play around with that to get the cheapest amount of cooling possible can be a benefit. But in Oregon, you might have access to some undersea cables, but you're really not geolocated close to where the content needs to be punted off to the actual routers where the eyeballs sit. Same thing for the high desert in Washington. The latency to get back to the Seattle Internet Exchange is a little too far. In the case of what I built in Miami, the Napa of the Americas, it's a 750,000 square foot bunker in downtown Miami, surrounded by a bunch of beautiful high-rise condos now, which is kind of funny. But that building handles 95%, it's estimated now, of all the telecom between North and South America. So in that case, we had the combination of an undersea cable, a lot of undersea cables terminating and needing a place to meet. You had access to an entire continent, and you had available land and an internet exchange built from scratch, which I don't think will happen anymore these days. But from a weather perspective, absolutely terrible. Humid, sticky humid and wet all the time. Free air cooling just about doesn't exist there. So, that's a different animal. That becomes a geolocation deployment. I think that you'll see us certainly looking at some instances because of some of our land partners and the availability of sites maybe in the high desert where we can take advantage of compute that can be far away, and take advantage of that free air cooling and really get down to a very low PUE number. But primarily our major focus is going to be adjacency from a latency perspective to the largest internet exchanges in the country. We're not trying to remake the wheel there. And mass scale land and energy. The minimum site that we're really looking at is 1,000 acres anywhere. So in thinking about that, nobody's really done that anywhere in the world. And certainly our first site here is over 2,000 acres. So we've really even started out even at a higher scale. So that's the kind of things you'll see us looking for in major markets, adjacent to internet exchanges, that being the biggest driving factor regardless of the weather.
Yeah. Okay, Josh, we got just about a minute or so to go, and to wrap up on this, you looked ahead a little bit just a minute ago, but what is a major trend in your business? It looks like data centers like yours are getting bigger, faster, better all the time. And does that mean that the use cases are centralizing generally, or what? It just seems like so much is going into the cloud and into interconnection data centers that it's maybe not going to be distributed enough in the future. Is that a stupid thing to say, or what?
Well, distributed enough is a hard thing to entertain and guess at because it all depends on the entity and the resiliency they built into their back-end infrastructure. The hyperscalers are incredibly focused on cost and driving down networking costs, driving down real estate costs, so they can then drive down their infrastructure costs internally to offer a better price to customers. And a lot of that relates to energy as a big driver in consolidating infrastructure around that. You can even see on my shirt sleeve, I have a lightning bolt. Our entire focus is really mass scale energy. We think we can do up to 3,000 megawatts on our first campus and up to 25 million square feet, depending on the density that our clients require. And a lot of that will be related to air-cooled infrastructure and then future technology around liquid-cooled, which is certainly going to be coming, and economizing that down to the barest minimum so they can now translate that to cheaper services to customers. So what we're doing is kind of taking a 5-year leap ahead to where things are going. Instead of deploying little parcels, 20-acre sites or something next to distribution power, we're trying to do a giant leap of mass scale power infrastructure and facilities to serve the industry. And we think that's where things are going. That really is the future as far as we're concerned. And our customers who are already starting to sign up are telling us the same thing.
All right, Josh Snowhorn, CEO and founder of Quantum Loophole. If any of our viewers would like to find you on the web, it's quantumloophole.com or what?
Yes, correct. And you'll see further information added to that site as we can become more public with our location and funding and other things that go along with the project.
Yeah, and just a year old, so really just kind of getting started, but you seem to have a pretty good start already. So congratulations on that.
Thank you very much.
All right, Josh, thank you very much for joining us. And for everybody following along to the end here, thank you very much. And have a great rest of your eWEEK. Thanks for joining us on eWEEK eSpeaks. Go to eWEEK.com to hear more conversations with IT thought leaders.